Bem-vindos a mais uma sessão de webinar da AICEP. O meu nome é Eduardo Henriques, eu sou diretor da área digital e comunicação da AICEP. Hoje vamos ter um enfoque, que é um mercado particularmente importante para as empresas portuguesas e, enfim, é um dos maiores importadores mundiais na área do agroalimentar e também para as empresas portuguesas é um dos mais importantes mercados a nível internacional, que são os Estados Unidos. Hoje a sessão vai ser uma sessão, espero eu, muito prática sobre as formas de abordagem ao mercado americano na área dos produtos alimentares. E, portanto, hoje vamos ter aqui dois especialistas, vamos ter três especialistas, um que é o nosso delegado em Nova Iorque, o João Mota Pinto, que está ali já no ecrã, que vai falar um pouco sobre aquilo que é a conjuntura atual dos Estados Unidos neste período de Covid. Depois teremos uma apresentação do Eric Savage, que representa uma plataforma online para colocação de produtos no mercado americano. E depois concluiremos com Michelle Buster, que é uma importadora nesta área, conhecida de algumas empresas portuguesas já, e, portanto, que nos vai dar conselhos muito práticos sobre como estar nos Estados Unidos da melhor forma. Esta sessão espero que seja muito participada. Aliás, eu convido a todos os que já estão a que ao longo da sessão possam colocar questões através do nosso chat. O chat vai estar aberto. As perguntas de preferência podem ser colocadas em inglês, mas se também tiverem alguma dificuldade, podem colocar as perguntas em português que nós depois colocaremos em inglês. No final, nós faremos então a seleção das perguntas e colocaremos aos nossos oradores. Vamos tentar responder a todas as perguntas, mas se alguma pergunta ficar por responder, não hesitem, porque podemos, a posteriori, responder às questões que coloquem, quer à nossa delegação dos Estados Unidos, quer aos nossos convidados de hoje. Só uma questão prática, a sessão vai decorrer, vamos tentar que seja uma hora e um quarto, uma hora e meia no máximo, mas durante a sessão os vossos microfones e as vossas câmaras vão estar desligados, está bem? Para evitar aqui interferências. E, portanto, eu, enfim, começaria já por lançar o primeiro convidado, João Mota Pinto. Dou a palavra ao João, agradeço muito a vossa presença e agradeço, sobretudo, que participem e que a sessão seja muito útil. E passo a palavra ao João. Muito obrigado. Até já.
Obrigado, Eduardo. Muito boa tarde, senhoras e senhores empresários. Tal como o Eduardo informou, hoje estamos aqui para fazer um webinar sobre o setor alimentar, agroalimentar nos Estados Unidos. É um setor que é muito importante neste mercado, representa uma grande fatia. Temos que ter em atenção que o mercado norte-americano representa 330 milhões de consumidores, não é? São 330 milhões de pessoas, portanto é um mercado muito grande. É um mercado em que os Estados Unidos, como verão na minha apresentação daqui a pouco, é o maior importador a nível do mundial de produtos alimentares. E hoje temos a felicidade, como o Eduardo também já referiu, temos aqui dois oradores muito importantes que vos poderão falar sobre a experiência deles no mercado. Um deles é o Sr. Eric Savage, que é vice-presidente da ICRM, que é uma plataforma de colocação de produtos alimentares em vários canais de distribuição nos Estados Unidos. E para terem uma ideia, esta é certamente a plataforma mais importante deste mercado, em que trabalha com 80 dos 100 maiores canais de distribuição de alimentares dos Estados Unidos. E depois temos também como oradora a senhora Michelle Buster, que é fundadora e presidente da Forever Cheese, que é uma importadora distribuidora de produtos alimentares, já trabalha com alguns produtos portugueses, para além de queijo, com azeite, etc. A minha apresentação será feita em inglês e no final, como o Eduardo disse, estaremos disponíveis para responder às vossas perguntas. Okay, so now I'll switch to English and I'll start my presentation. And briefly here today, we'll be talking a little bit about what we know about COVID-19, its impact on the US economy and the worldwide economy, what we don't know, and then I'll do a brief presentation on the food products sector or the industry in the United States. So what we know about COVID? We know that so far in the US, about 3.5 million people have been infected, that over or almost 140,000 people have died, and that 1.5 million people have recovered. So the US is the country that is suffering the most worldwide with this COVID crisis. and this is affecting, obviously, the society and its economy. We also know that because of COVID, the global economy will shrink at least by 3% this year, this in global terms, and that the US GDP decreased by 5% in the first quarter. And please remember that during this first quarter, the economy was still open. It only closed, the shutdown only occurred towards the end of the month of March. And the new data for the second quarter has not come out, but certainly the decrease of the US GDP in the second quarter will be bigger than 20%. We also know that more than 48 million people in the US have applied for unemployment insurance benefits. So many people became unemployed because of the shutdown. That the US unemployment rate hit a record high of 14.7% in April, but it's already recovering with the reopening of the economy. So the last data tell us that the unemployment rate in June was at 11.1%, and this tells us that the real unemployment is estimated to be around 14.7 million people. We also know that, unfortunately, the worldwide trade will decrease between 13 and 32% this year. This is a big decrease, and it will be much bigger than the last economic crisis that we had around the 2007-2008 crisis. So this will be a deeper economic crisis worldwide. We also know that the US worldwide imports in the first quarter of 2020 decreased 4.3% because of the problems with the supply chains. And we also know that unfortunately many viable businesses are facing bankruptcies. So smaller retailers as well as big retailers, because of the shutdown, many of them won't be able to recover and open again. So this is also a big problem. So what don't we know about COVID? First of all, we don't know the path that the virus will take. As you know, here in the US, there has been a big spike recently in the case of infections. For you to have an idea, Florida alone has more cases daily than the European Union together, of all the countries together. And so many states have been very affected by this virus in recent weeks. We are talking not only Florida, but we are talking in states like California, Arizona, etc. We also don't know the effectiveness of the policies meant to contain the outbreak and to minimize the economic damage. So we know that the governments are injecting money, the health departments are putting together policies to contain the spread of the virus, but let's be realistic, and until we have a cure or a vaccine to take care of this virus, to effectively kill this virus, this problem will keep taking place. And we also don't know, because of the increase in the virus infections, if we will have continued self-isolation and depressed spending against the resurgence of this virus. So in other words, until we have a vaccine, people will tend to self-isolate and to spend less, which is also a problem. And together with all of this, we have all been listening about the geopolitical environment of increased protectionism. Countries want to have been implementing some policies of reshoring, bringing some industries, or trying to bring some industries home. I don't believe personally that this will affect much the food sector, because you cannot just all of a sudden start producing your own food that you are buying elsewhere. It will take some time. And together with the great protectionism, there are also always the issues with the supply chains and less reliance on imports. Again, for the food products that Portugal exports to the US, and we are talking about specialty food products, I don't think this will be a major problem. So a little introduction about the food product sector in the United States. The US is the largest importer of food products. The last data we have, it's from the World Economic Forum, is from 2017, and the US imports represented around 13% of the total global imports of food products. So it's a huge number. We also know that the US sales of specialty food products, which is the greater category of the Portuguese food products sold to the US, represented $158 billion in 2019. The US sales of food products online, which is a new trend, it represents already $5.4 billion. The US sales of organic food products grew 5% in 2019 to over $50 billion. This is a new trend that I'll talk in a little bit. So organic food products are very much in the United States. And for these food products, for the organic sector, you can see that what the consumers look, the top selling segments are fruits and vegetables, organic dairy, organic milk, poultry, and fish products. In what regards to Portugal, the US imports from Portugal food products increased 19% in 2019, reaching a total of $87 million. And as you can see, $87 million is just a little drop in the ocean. It's non-representative. Unfortunately, most of our food products that come to the US, they go directly to our diaspora, so to the Portuguese American people living in the United States. And actually, one of the reasons why we're doing this webinar is trying to change a little bit this and to expand our sales to more broader clientele. The most imported food products from Portugal are olive oil, prepared and preserved fish, bread, pastry, cakes, biscuits, mollusks, and fruits, nuts, and other edible plants. So these are the main categories. So what are the trends that we see in the food product sector in the United States? The first trend has to do with health benefits and sustainability. And we talked a little bit about organic products. More and more, the US consumer is prioritizing the connection between eating habits and health. So they are looking for more organic products, more healthy products. But they're also a big concern about the supply chains, food safety, water usage, etc. And looking at the products that the consumer are looking for, they are looking for plant-based meals, upcycled products, protein-packed foods, dairy-free products, fermented beverages, and prebiotic food. These are the new trends that we have seen making part of this new reality. The other trend is the cannabis and the CBD products that are on the rise. So with the open of the US that allow people to produce cannabis for medicinal purposes, many food products are containing CBD, and this is a trend that is also rising and becoming more important. The other trend is the growing preference for locally produced products. What we have seen in the past years, 5 to 10 years, or at least in the past 5 years, is the appearance of many local farmer markets. So people are looking for locally produced products, although most of these products, we are talking about fresh fruits and vegetables. And so I don't think this will also impact much of our exports to the United States. And the fourth and large trend is the rise on online sales. So the e-commerce, especially in a time of a crisis like the one we are living right now, that many consumers are buying food products and other products online, so using e-commerce platforms. And so this is something that your companies should take close attention to. So basically, this was my presentation. I will now pass the mic to Eric. As I told you, Eric is the Vice President of ECRM, the Efficient Collaborative Retail Marketing Companies, which are a company that helps placing food products in various distribution channels. And as I told you before, probably the most important one in the United States. Eric will give you now his presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am excited to have this opportunity to talk with everybody a little bit about how to do business in the U.S., what we have found has been successful, and then a little bit about how ECRM can help you with that process. Some of the slides I'll go through quickly. I think we touched on some, and some, we can always go back and you can ask questions. So ECRM, I'm not going to get too much into it right now, but it's been around for 25 years. And what we have done for the last 25 years is basically put retail buyers and retail sellers, people selling to retail, in one-on-one meetings. And we do that through, through our, ability of knowing the products and the categories, and we'll get into it. But basically that's what we've done. So where you may have gone to a trade show, how we're different is all you do is meet with buyers. There's no standing around in a booth or anything like that, but we'll get into that in a little bit. We talked about how big the US market is, and I'm going to focus my discussion mostly on the US market. When you really look at it by consumption, we are a huge consumer of products. So I know we just went over this, so I won't get too deep into it, but just recognize that the U.S. market does dictate the way the U.S. market sometimes wants things. If we would ask, do you have plans in the next 5 years to go into U.S. retailer? Here's just some of the retailers that you can think of. So some of you may know some of the names, some of you may know all the names, and some of you may not, but every one of these are viable retailers that are doing business in the U.S. They're constantly looking and evaluating for new products. So it's everything from Walmart, which is the biggest one on the list, to much, much smaller or regional. We have what's called a regional supermarket, where it's in just in 4 or 5 or 6 states, like Hy-Vee. It's a great retailer. It does a really, really amazing job at supermarket, but they're only in the Midwest. Publix, same thing in the southeast of the United States. So you really have to sort of understand, the landscape here. Then you really want to decide what market you're going to go after. So there's a lot of different retailers, and most of you probably know some of this. So you have your big box retailers, and a big box retailer could be anything. And now I know from a food standpoint, you may not think of it, but it could be an office supply store. It could be, Walmart. You have your specialty stores, which is, could be specialty food, where they only carry gourmet and special foods. Club stores are are what we would call primarily at Sam's, BJ's, and Costco. It's pretty much the 3 of those, and Meijer could probably fall into there. And they are where you're buying either bigger sizes or bigger quantities. Grocery, which is the most traditional, what we would call supermarkets grocery. Kroger is one of the big banners in that. In the U.S., drugstores. So I know in some countries where drugstores do not sell food or beverage or things like that, they sell healthcare and beauty. In the United States, a drugstore is almost like a convenience store. I should add convenience stores to this. And then discount. Discount would be like a Walmart or Target and things like that. The one that is missing off there is obviously convenience. Convenience is a really big category in the U.S. It's typically snack, tobacco, gasoline, and prepared foods. But that's usually what those categories are. What's really important if you're going to work with a retailer is to understand and know their retailer. I have been doing this a long time. I have met with more suppliers than I could even tell you. And if they don't know what I'm going to tell you is a minimum to go to market, you're going to be at a huge disadvantage. Because when you meet with a retailer, you don't want to ask these questions. How many stores do you have? What's your business model? Who's their competition? Did you go to their website? Did you visit? Did you, to see what they're doing online? And then if you're coming to the United States, did you have an opportunity to visit stores? Whenever possible, when you travel, you should visit the local retailer stores. I have to tell you, I did it. I was recently in Brazil. I went to like 3 or 4 or 5 different Brazilian supermarkets and pharmacies to see what their products, what were different. I did it in, I was in Manchester. I did it there too. So it's really important that you understand who you're trying to sell. You know, you may have the greatest cheese in the world, but if you really don't understand their strategy and who they are, it makes it harder. And then does your product fit into their market? I'm going to take you through just something like I would do for Walgreens. I just picked Walgreens was the example. If this is what I would know about Walgreens. I know that they consider themselves a neighborhood health, beauty, and retail store serving the communities. They're very community-based. Almost 80% of every American lives within 5 minutes of a Walgreens. They have 8 million customer interactions in store and online each day. They're expanding their physical storefront, which gives opportunities for new categories, and they are working to gain the new and latest technology in the market. They have 15 distribution centers, and why I want to know that is if I'm going to sell my product, it's got to go through their distribution centers. How many places do I have to send it? They have 90 million active balance reward members. So what a balance reward member is, for the people that don't know that, it's like a shopper's card that you get. So when you go up to the register, they take this number from you, and you get coupons, discounts, offers through this program. They have 90 million people that they can touch through this program. They have almost 19,000 worldwide locations, and their main competitors are CVS, Walmart, Target, and Rite Aid. I know that about them. You should basically be able to do that on every retailer that you want to sell in the U.S. because this is what they want to know. Now, know your market. So now you know about the retailer. Now this should be the easier part for everybody. The retailer is going to want to know is who's your direct target, who's your competitor, what's the price. Is your price? Are you the high price, mid price, low price? Know your pricing and know what retail is. Make sure that you know what other products that are competing against are selling at. Know your demographics of who's going to buy it. Which is the model shopper that you want to go after? Is it upper income? Is it lower income? Is it younger generation, older generation? Is it mostly women? Is it mostly men? Try to understand that as you go to tell them this. And then when you tell your story, tell it, and in your time period, which will be short, make sure that you're specific, you're relevant, and you're brief. Most retailers don't want to hear a 20-minute story on the history of the company. Most don't. Some may at one point, but to start out, they're not as interested in the history. They want to know that you have supply chain, that you have product, that you've done testing and things like that. Be a subject matter expert for them. Be the people that they turn to when they want to know about a product. Tell them what your brand positioning is. We're unique. We have a unique product. We're less expensive. We're better than. You need to be able to differentiate. I'll use going back to cheese, since I know we're talking about cheese later. You have American cheese in the U.S. If I'm going to come out with American cheese, there's no differentiation. So I need to know what my differentiation is. Know the competitive landscape. Is this a new entry or an existing product? If your competitors in the same market, know all about their product. And they may want to know who's your current client list. So be prepared to able to talk to them about that. So with size of markets comes complexity to serve. So this is when the U.S. market, you have to think about as you go to market, when you meet with retailers, who you want to meet with. Because the first question they want to know is, can you support their volume? So if you're going to get into Walmart, are you able to actually have the capacity? Because with Walmart, it's like never out of stock. Now, I know if there's a global shortage, there's a global shortage of products, but basically their ruling is like you're never out of stock. Walmart isn't going to be like, well, it's going to take us 6 more months to get more product. You just won't work with them. Do you have supply chain set up? How is your supply chain working? Are you able to reach the different regions that they're in? Do I need a local person to help navigate the US market? Some people do, some people don't. But that's a conversation you have to be honest about yourself. Am I able to navigate that US market? Do I have to warehouse it? What happens? Do I have to import it? Do they import it? Most likely they're not going to import it, but through all that process, do you have all that done? And then, are you in compliant with the US regulatory laws? I am no regulatory or federal or state specific law expert, but there are lawyers that probably advise you on that. Next one is, do you have the IT infrastructure to receive orders and payment? These are things you have to think about. I don't have, I have no IT infrastructure. They probably just can't do business with you. Things that you want to make sure, you make the best product, but how could it fail? One of the things you want to do is be transparent. You want to over communicate with them. You want to make sure that they know everything that's going on. The other one is, do I understand the financial terms? They are not, I shouldn't say 100%, they are not going to pay for their product to pick it up at the Port of Lisbon with all their responsibilities. They're most likely not going to do that. Their requirements are probably that you're going to get it to them. So do you understand, how does that affect you financially? What insurances I need to have, and you need to work with each retailer to make sure that you have what they need for the minimum. And do I understand that there's penalties and costs of being out of compliant? So again, I can't supply because of whatever that reason is. They may have penalties in place. And then, you should know if there's any specific tests you need. So I guess I would say, if I make a claim in the U.S. that my product is FDA approved, I have to say that, I have to be able to prove it. Pricing. One of the big things that we just want to make sure, I'm not going to get too, most of you know how to price your products, but one of the things I would recommend is we do have categories, not specifically as much food, but think about your product for the long term, not the short term. Sometimes when we deal with more general merchandise items, they're so excited to sell their product through Amazon in the US that they put their price at a lower price because they're like, well, I'm selling it direct, I can cut the margin. And now you're selling your widget for $3 when you want to sell it at retail for $5. Once you've priced it at Amazon for $3, it's now $3. You've now just hurt your pricing. So really think about your long-term strategy for pricing, especially when you're dealing with the .coms. And then all the different type of pricings that they have. There's and try to work with the retailer. Most likely they're going to expect the product delivered to them, and they're probably going to pay you in, they may say 30 days, but it may be 60 days. Just the realistic of saying I'm going to get it in net 10 or, on delivery is probably not going to happen. I mean, Walgreens or Kroger is just not going to change the way they pay, most likely for most companies. Oops. Hold on. Sorry, I lost my screen for a second. Product label. Again, I am not a product label expert, but there are specific things that you need to make sure you do. If you click on this link right here, it takes you to the FDA. It shows you labeling. So as you start thinking about, hey, I do want to take a product to the United States, you need to go through the FDA labeling, make sure things are in metric as well as English units, and just, your name, state where it's packed, and the limit, the stuff that's required. If it's not required, they won't sell it. Some of the keys to success. Once you're ready to become a vendor, production capability, control, distributions. I can't talk enough about that. Make sure you have enough money to produce your product and keep your lights on, because not now, but like 20 years ago, there were horror stories with manufacturers that took on Walmart. Walmart, is now taking 40% of their capability, and you're not able, although you would think it's more orders, it's great, but it became too big. They don't have enough capital on hand. So just be really careful that you can produce enough to make sure that works. Learn their portals. Most, if not every retailer has their own vendor portal. Make sure you're as familiar with it as you can be. There are probably brokers in the United States if you need help with certain vendors, but you need to understand how their portals work, because everything will happen within their portal. And this is one of the things I would tell you to do. Anywhere there's a retail buyer, you should be. So if a retailer says, I'm going to do a vendor day, you should be at it. If, self-servingly, if an ECRM has an event that's good for you, you should consider it. If there is an opportunity to speak to the retail buyer, take advantage of it. The more you know them, the better the process becomes and the better it is. I know, I think Walmart, using them, is doing a I think they call it open call, where they're asking for vendors. I think they may only be made in America vendors. Hey, come to this. For them, it's free. Come present us your products. So try to be aware of anything that comes up with vendor days, and anything from a trade show or something that meets your needs. Try to do that, because it definitely will be a positive thing. Let's see. You may need different sales assistants. So think about this. If you do, I could probably connect you with people. I have no interest in it. Our company has no interest in it, but we do have a lot of these people that come to, we have 90 different programs. So they come, you can interview them and talk about it. But, you have brokers, you have consultants, you have companies that call themselves marketing companies. We have manufacturers, reps. You can hire somebody that lives here and works for you, or you can outsource them to probably somebody who sells, which I guess an outsourced salesperson would be a little bit like a broker. But I'm sure everybody knows what they are. But if you need any assistance that way, we can at least connect you, and you can interview and talk to them and see if it works. But you may need that assistance in the US. So I'm going to flip it a little bit and tell you a little bit about ECRM and what we do. So we cover multiple categories. We'll stick with food and beverage as our main category for this. ECRM puts together these one-on-one type program meetings for vendors and suppliers. Last year, we worked with over 4,000 buyers, 5,000 different suppliers. We have a product called Range Me, for those of you who don't know, that has, I think now 700,000 products on the platform. We scheduled 330,000 meetings in 2019, and 92% of the people that were surveyed, or all the people that were surveyed, 92% said that they would recommend ECRM. One thing about ECRM is I'm talking about the US, but we also do this for Europe, and we also do it for Latin America. So we have sort of three areas. US is our biggest by far. Europe's number 2, and then we have a couple programs for Latin America. But we have a nice footprint. That's a hard community sometimes to get together. We look at 3 different type of brands when you work with an ECRM. Most of you have to decide where you are. It doesn't really matter. It's just the way we classify. You're an emerging brand. You're looking to get discovered. You're a challenger brand. You're in the marketplace, but you're really looking to grow. And then the leading brand is, I'm one of the leading brands. I use ECRM to maybe do more strategic planning. The other 2 are more sales. It doesn't matter where you are in this lifeline, but we have sort of places for each group. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a roadmap. It's sort of what we do. It tries to make every manufacturer as successful as they can be. So before I jump into that, I just want to let you know, We have a dedicated team of about 20 people who work with our retailers every day. That is their job. So where I work with international governments or international agencies, I don't get involved as much with the retailers. I have a colleague that his team, all they do is call the retailers to find out what their goals are, what their strategies are, where their opportunities are, what's important to them. Is it innovation? Is it product discovery? Is it supply chain? To try to make sure we know as much about the retailers as possible, and then we can then give that piece of information to the suppliers when they're going to market. We work with 80 of the top 100 retailers in the U.S. So the question would be, is like, well, who are the other 20? So the other 20 could be like a company like the Apple Store. We don't. The Apple Store is just not really what we do, but they're one of the probably top 100 retailers. Or if it's specialty clothes, we don't do. So we're really more what we would really define it out as mass merchant. That's really what we are. That's why we're 80 of the top 100. RangeMe. For those of you who don't know what RangeMe is, so RangeMe is a ECRM company, and it is a online discovery tool for U.S. buyers. It gives you the ability to put your brand in front of retailers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can see this is a company's brand. They're listed on the site. You create it. Somewhat think of it as like it's your brand. It's your brand page. And here's an example. And then just so you know how it ties back into ECRM. So here's a company, Arts Natural, and you can tell by when it has this link that they're coming to an ECRM. That's what that means there. And then this means that they are verified, that they are able to do business. They have the minimum requirements that they need to do business in the U.S. The RangeMe works with a ton of retail partners. These are some of the retail partners they work with for sourcing. So as you think, well, how does it, I'm not going to get into, how does it work? So essentially, a retailer would go in here, your product is listed in here, and then they have criteria. So let's say I'm looking for coffee. I can say I'm looking for coffee, and then I want it to be, I may want it to be organic, or I want it to be international, or I want it to have certain criteria. I can put these search capabilities in, and then I search and I come up with, a series of companies and products that meet that criteria. You set your criteria, and then the retailer chooses criteria that you may or you may not meet, but if you're based on what they're looking for and what they're searching for. And then this little green dot means that these companies we know it's called RangeMe Verified. They have been verified through the premium program to say they can do business. They have the minimal requirements. They have a UPC. They have what else do they have? They have like insurance and things like that. So those are things that RangeMe does. We describe this as like the entry point. So we think every company should sign up for RangeMe. It is free to start. There is a premium program, but just to have your products listed there is free, and it's a good way to get started in the marketplace. Then when you start talking about ECRM and what we do and how ours is now the next level. So now I really want to meet with buyers on a one-on-one basis. How does that work? So then what we do as a company signs up, we start to build out their categories and their capabilities. So we're going to ask this company, are you a natural product? Are you selling vitamins? Is it weight nutrition? And as you choose these different areas, it starts to build your profile in our system. We do the same thing with the retailers. Hey, I'm looking for companies that are in the sports nutrition space, and they have herbals. Then when the meeting time comes, we're able to match to make sure that we're putting the right retailers with the right suppliers. And this is what this does. So we take you through this whole process is what we do to really get you your best opportunity. We're going to take you through and ask you, like, what's important about your company. We call it a wow factor. What brands and products do you have? You list them here. What's your story? So some of the things that you don't want to talk about on the sales call, you put in here, and then each retailer is going to receive a data sheet on your company prior to the meeting so that they can read it and be prepared. This is where you do your points of differentiation, your competitive advantage. It's visible to every buyer. I think I'm hoping that we. So ultimately, so now you're coming to a program. We've done all this work. And then we start to build out your schedule. You don't build your schedule, we do. So it's sort of turnkey for a manufacturer after you give all your data. But like so now we are saying that you're going to meet with the Alibaba group. They're a retailer. They have one store because they're online. Here's their annual sales, what country they're located in. Although you would think that would say China, but I guess they have a US office. And then you would go through and you could see who's on my schedule, who's pending to be on my schedule, and who's not on my schedule. And it may say, I'm looking for private label. And you may say, I'm not making private label. So then then you wouldn't be on the schedule, and we let you know that. I'm hoping. So this is what ultimately each supplier gets. The retailer gets the same thing on you. So now you're going to meet with Albertsons. Albertsons is a big supermarket chain in the US. They're located in Boise. There's 2 people that you're meeting with. Here's the categories that they're responsible for. This is a cosmetic one. We tell you right here exactly what they're looking to buy. So if it says they're looking for prepackaged dollar items, and you do not sell prepackaged dollar items, I'm sure that the meeting's not going to be as great. You may want to think, is there an option that I can do something for them based on that? But yeah, I would. You have to read this. And then if I don't know who Albertsons is in general, besides I think you should Google it, we do give you a little bit of a scenario. So you're as prepared as you can be. But you'll get one of these on every company that you're meeting with, and the manufacturer and the retailer gets one of these on every company they're meeting with. So they know I'm meeting with, this company and this is what they do, and, a little bit, all those other pieces of information. Then ultimately how you interact is through our virtual or in-person meetings. Right now, we're 100% virtual. We used to do this in person. It's typically what would happen. There'd be a program for, we'll say, it'll be dairy, deli, and bakery. That would be in Chicago at the Sheraton. We bring in all the buyers, all the suppliers come in. We do everything in a 2 to 3 day period at a hotel. All the food's included, everything's included. It was a completely turnkey. You just come, you have your meetings, and then we manage everything else. Obviously, we have switched to virtual right now. So what would happen first is you would receive a schedule, and the schedule is based on the times that you are, the times that you're coming in. So this is like, it says begin. So you would click on the begin button, which is very important that you get your schedule and you make sure that you go begin. You'll come to a screen like this that says, oh, my meeting's going to start soon. It's going to start in 17 seconds. This is who I'm meeting with. And then all the information that we talked about is right here. You would be able to download your marketing information right here for this company. So if you had 20 meetings, you could have 20 different documents or so. This is their website. This is the person you're meeting with. This is your next meeting. This is how you screen share. And then these are obviously if I want to use my camera or my audio. So ultimately, we'd start, and then there's 2 people, and they're just having what almost looks like a Zoom call where they're talking about whatever they're going to talk about. They're going to sell some soap, I think, in a second. Right here will be. This is the products, and then this little tab is going to be note-taking. So you see everything still going on. We're having the conversation. We have 6 minutes left. Now, I as the retailer click on this button. I can see a lot of products, but these are the top 3 that show up. So you always want your top 3 biggest products right here, and you can click for it and ask for more information as a retailer, but it's showing that they're selling some soap and so forth. I also know it shows me here that this company is range me verified. If you're not, it just won't be there. It's not. You don't have to have it, but if you have it, it'll be there. Or if you're just range me, it'll be there. Then I want to show my presentation. Here's my company's presentation. There's somebody else on the call, and then I'm sharing my screen, or I'm sharing a meeting document. It doesn't really matter. So you can show that presentation right here, and then you can take notes, and we keep these notes for you tied. So you as the supplier keep these notes tied to the retailer forever if you want. So when you come back in a year, hey, I met with ShopRite. Oh, the person said, I'm looking for organic dairy, and you knew that from last time. So in the meeting, you can follow up. So I know you last year you're looking for organic dairy, and now I have it, type thing. So that gives you that. You can have we don't think you should go too crazy on how many people, but you can have quite a few people on the call. The more people on the call, obviously, the smaller this gets, and then it makes it a little confusing. We had like I think 19 people on one call, and it was a little bit chaotic for that retailer and supplier. And then at the end, there's a follow-up site, and it will tell you, what the retailer, like this, if they want something for you to be able to go back in and follow up and edit your notes and, export anything that you need, if you need the contact information and so forth. So we keep all that going to help you keep your conversation going with the retailer. So I'm going to skip my Q&A till the end, but I went through that really quickly. I would have loved to spend more time, but I know we have a short period of time, and I am going to pass it back over to, I don't know if I pass it, or do you just take it from me?
I'll take it.
We will take it from you. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yes, so Eric, thank you very much for your presentation. Very detailed, with a lot of advice to the Portuguese companies, and also a very good explanation on the ECRM platform. We'll switch to Michel Buster. Michel is the founder of Forever Cheese, a company that imports and distributes food products or gourmet food products like cheese, olive oil, etc. And the good news is that Michel already works with some Portuguese companies. She imports already some Portuguese food products, and she'll give us their perspective from an importer point of view. Michel, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today. Hi, everyone. I am talking to you from my warehouse in New Jersey, which is full of cheese. And I have to say, during the COVID times, we were it's quite a dramatic time for the industry. It's gotten somewhat better, but things have changed. So I'm an extremely positive person, and we have great hopes that things return. But right now, true with how do I start my PowerPoint thingy? You just do that, João? Oh, I go like that.
So. Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
Sorry.
There it is. Okay. Go ahead.
Before I go to this, just because we were talking so much about COVID and things changing, we've noticed some shifts. So there definitely have been some shifts during this time to people going back to staples, things that, they weren't looking for esoteric things. If I have almost 400 cheeses, they were looking for 20 instead of those 400. So things are a little bit better, but they're still different. And normally, I always talk about looking for new, looking for unique, looking for that market. I mean, Eric really did a great job presenting most things, so I will have to skip over a lot of mine. But as we're looking now, I can't be as, I have to choose much more carefully the products that I feel would be successful or be welcomed right now with the current climate that's going on here. But it's very clear, like Eric said, that you need to determine which market you want to capture. And I guess one of the first things after listening to Eric's presentation is, how do you want to work? I am an importer, so I do most of what was in the presentation. So my ability to bring things is, we do that work for you mostly. I mean, there's still a lot of work. You have to hold up your bargain. But I mean, the meetings we organize, how to label your cheese, you need to be responsible for doing it according to the guidelines of the FDA, but we're there to help and to give you the guidelines and to work with you. For the way that my company looks, and we've been doing this since 1993, and proudly we've been importing from Portugal since the late 90s, when we saw that all the products were going ethnic, and we thought that it was a great addition to our line with Iberian products, since we do Italy, Spain, now Portugal, and Croatia. Not all of the people that we talk to have a clear idea of who they want to sell and how they want to do it. For us, if you work with an importer, if you work with us, we generally ask you not to work with someone else. If we do the specialty food market, and for us, that means we have to make a choice about what we do. I can't expect to have my products in Whole Foods, in Wegmans, and the same thing in Costco and in Sam's Market. It doesn't work. Is your goal volume? Is your goal niche, or to be in the best places? It doesn't coexist. I tried it. It didn't work. I had some producers who wanted to just sell more, and they killed their own brand. Once you discount to a certain price, the others in the marketplace want to also do the same thing, and you can never get that margin back again. And eventually, it's been a sad day for that company, and I've tried not to make that same mistake. So we talk openly with the people who we work with, and it's a very good idea to have in mind what your goal is. Eric said it too. What is your story? Every single product that Forever Cheese sells, we try and go and find the story. And I personally am the one who goes to visit all the producers, and when I can, I bring people with me to do it. But for me, it's fundamental. I've never attacked the marketplace as what, this percent I'm going to increase your sales, or this is what this is going to do. If you're in specialty, people are about the quality of the product and about who you are. Are you sustainable? Are you organic farming? Are you a closed herd? Is it a family company? Is it women produced or women owned? All of these things. Is it a minority owned? All of these things have an impact and are really good. What about in the sustainability? Are your products recyclable? Are you using a lot of plastic? It's a huge thing right now. The goal of all the larger markets is to reduce plastics. So everybody's looking for alternative packaging. How innovative can you be on that? I hit a brick wall sometimes on some things. I sell figs. Figs can't be, for example, vacuum sealed because they need to breathe. So they have to be in a certain type of package. So we have to go with what we need versus what makes sense. Versus also, we can't always do what the market wants. We can try for it, but it's so hard to be everything to everybody, which is why, again, you need to choose. Okay, years ago, when I was going looking for producers, I used to say, hey, give me great quality product, and the rest, leave it to me. I'll do it. It's not that way anymore, okay? If you're selling to the U.S., you need to be ready to sell to the U.S. You need to have your documentation. As an importer, to protect the world from your product. And I have to make sure that your product is safe, and I have to demonstrate it to the U.S. government. And the way they want to do that is with tons of paper. Documentation. If you're a cheese company, analyses. Portugal, #1. You guys hate to analyze for E. coli. E. coli in Europe is under 1,000. E. coli in the US is under 10. You heard me, under 10. So anybody doing soft, gorgeous, amanteigado cheeses, it's difficult. It's not impossible. But you need to be on top of it. And I need to know it. And guess what? My company asks you every single time you ship. Well, it depends how small you are. But we need to see that on a regular basis. And it's not only that. It's no listeria, no salmonella, a limited amount of staff. These are technical things. It's very important to have a technical person every day, somebody for compliance and quality control. We can't get anywhere without it. You need to understand the FDA compliance. We can help, but you can't just rely only on us. We look at it as the people that we work with, we're partners. We're in this together. I'm your voice, and if I love your product, you'll have my heart forever, but you need to do your part. If you have certifications, IFS or BRC, sorry, that's a typo in mine, those are helpful. They're not absolutely necessary, but they're super helpful. Traceability is your lot within a lot. We have to have that all the time. Packaging. I don't like to ask people to change from what they're originally doing, but sometimes it's important. If you're selling honey and you come with this huge 12-ounce jar, it's just not going to work for the marketplace. People want smaller format here, not tiny, because then they'll be worried that you'll put it in your pocket. But just be open to discussing how things might have to change for here. People's tastes are different. Some things people don't get it if you've got the name and you can't pronounce it. We need Americans can remember, and if they can't pronounce you, they'll never remember you. So that's super important. English labeling we talked about. It doesn't mean you have to throw out everything you have. To start with, we can with an additional sticker, but know that this is going to come long term, and there's going to be some sort of investment on here. I made like 1,000 notes also as Eric was talking. Those of you who make products that have weight loss know that you'll have to create a tear and you'll have to give extra weight. So if you're shipping something that's going to have any weight loss coming over, there are all sorts of laws here against selling underweight products, and you're going to have to do some sort of a percent to account for that. So think of it when you're doing your pricing. One thing I always notice and I don't understand in the cheese world, in Portugal, everything's more expensive. Not all the products are as distinctive and unusual going into my marketplace, but the pricing is so much higher. And it's always a question I throw out there. So be open to discussing what your pricing is and where you need to be. Of the volume, even after all these years, Portuguese products, to bring things, whereas I do for everything else, I bring it by air. And there's all sorts of other inherent challenges that go with that. But we've lost producers instead of gained them. Once FSMA took place and people had to give me analyses, they had to give me traceability and paperwork, there are a lot of companies that are not ready or are not willing to do that work for the U.S. So please just don't waste anybody's time if you're not ready to be equipped to sell here. Communication. Do you know that I have to run after a lot of our producers? They don't answer us when we write them. We write emails and they just don't answer. Do you know that I've searched for 2 years for some people, begging I want to sell them, and they just don't answer me? So I get another producer to call them and like kind of trick them into answering. It's crazy. You guys want to sell, right? I want great product. I don't want mediocre product. I don't want anything but great products. And we're very tough on what it is we want. But I mean, you should want to sell, right? Communicate. Pick up the phone. Call. Write, but don't be overly aggressive like every day. Communication is just absolutely, I'll go to the communication page there. It is so important. I can't tell you. I find that people don't call these days, and that I just get a lot of like Dear John emails that says, or this is another one I love. Well, this is what I'm selling. Go to my site. There. That's not selling. That's not there. Don't make me do the work. If you want to sell, present it and explain it or offer to get on a call. But this is something that it's way too passive to just say, here it is, go check it out on my website. Unless you know them. If you already know people, if you're working with people, then you might say use my web as a resource. But otherwise, it is not a yourself. Going back to the other one there, when you try and be creative and think outside the box, doesn't want me to go backwards. Tradition is important, but it's part of that storytelling. What I is new. What new? Because I've seen 27 types, everybody doing, and I love them, but always the same. So just try and think of some new things. I found new cheeses that but otherwise to like 3 different categories. Just an importer. Don't expect us to do everything. It's a partnership. You need to do your part. Hopefully that you would come over sometimes and present with us to customers. We actually prefer that we make it's not you going to our customers. If you work with us, that you work with us, but not around us. And then we can do things together and we'll share the great opportunities that there are putting your product, whether it's through ads or discounts. Sometimes we have to do discounts, not always. It's not our only way to sell, but customers love price discounts. And or just face-to-face interaction where people get to meet you. And then I guess you had told me to talk tariffs. It's not a good time for European products. Basically, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Croatia, every single product I have, but like 6 are under 25% of this tariff duty. If you do oils, you may want to consider lowering the cost of your product to lower everybody. Lower your costs if you can, because we pay off of the invoice price. And if it's getting too close, then talk with us about alternate ways of doing it. But it's very, very difficult. That extra 25% doesn't help anybody. Anyway, I don't want to be over, so thank you for the opportunity to address you all.
Well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Eric. Well, we will start Q&A right away. Yeah, just give me a second. Well, we will start by, broader questions. Yeah, and in your view, are there any Portuguese food products that cannot be exported to the US? Yeah.
Yes.
What kind of product would you include? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me start, and then we can probably hear also from Eric and Michelle.
Yeah. Okay.
But basically, as of right now, and due some sanitary issues or licenses that the Portuguese companies through the Portuguese government have not been able to provide to the US, all the meats and the fresh fruits cannot be exported from Portugal to the US. Those, but again, those I would not consider those as specialty food products because you're talking about meats, unless they could be if you are for some sausages and smoked sausages and stuff that we could export, but unfortunately, so again, all products that are meat products, they are forbidden in the US, as well as fresh fruits. Okay, those are the 2 main categories.
Yeah. Do you want to add something, Eric or Michelle? I don't know.
No. I do.
Okay, go ahead.
if someone wants to import cured meats, you can do it with the approval of the USDA, but you have to read all the regulations, learn how to do it. I wouldn't mind having something from Portugal, but it's expensive and it's a long process. And depending the setup of your plant, you might have to change a lot of things. So it's a long, in-depth regulation. And regarding cheese, under 60 days are not permitted in the US.
Okay. Another question, I think more to you, João. Do I have to register my company product in the US before exporting? Do I need a local representative or agent?
I mean, but basically, yes, as both Eric and Michelle already said, any company that wants to export food products to the US, they need to register the company at the FDA site. And during this registration, which can be done online, they have.
Sorry.
And during this registration, which can be done online.
Yep. Michelle, you want to add something?
Yeah, so during this registration, they have to appoint a representative, someone local in the US. This can be someone with a residence in the US. Doesn't have to be the importer. So if you work with different importers in the US, you can have a third party that is your representative. But you can also work with your importer to be your representative that you name when you register your company at the FDA.
Okay. You want to add something, Michelle? No. Okay. No, because I thought that you want to add something. Yeah. Let's go to new trends in the US market right now. What are the main trends that you identify in the market right now? I don't know, Buy American, something like price sensitivity, state differences, whatever. What kind of trends, big ones, that you identify that in your market?
So one of the trends that we're seeing is foods, especially a little bit more in the food services, pre-pack, like pre-made foods, where historically it's been, I guess at the university level or at the college level, where the students now are going to have everything like sort of prefabricated. So they are looking for companies that can do that. We see a lot in plant-based. We're seeing a lot in keto. We are trends based on what the retailers want to buy. So I really represent mass retail. So in a specialty setting, there could be something that's happening that we're not even touching yet. Ours is when it gets into the mass retail. But those are a couple of the key areas that we've noticed right now in food.
Yeah. Michelle?
In cheese, we've seen some of the supermarkets move towards pre-cuts, but many of them said it was just during the pandemic and are evaluating if they'll keep them. And other people just didn't want to. Some of the true, like independents, everything else, do not want to do it. But there has been some trend to pre-cut cheeses, and we started doing it. But knowing what I know about Portuguese cheese, there's only a few of them that lend themselves really to be able to sell pre-cut. I mean, in Amontillado can't. And then you have some of the other semi-firms. But it is, and also for online sales.
Yeah.
I know that Portugal, you love your small cheeses.
Going to ask something about online. Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, small cheeses can work, but it depends on the type. If a cheese is too small, when it's soft, it will get harder too fast, and it won't have any shelf. And so it's kind of a tricky. It really depends on the style of cheese or the style of product. But yes, with online sales growing, we're definitely looking at more options and different things. But there are also online retailers that do their own packaging. So there's everything in this marketplace, just everything.
Yeah. Eric?
Yeah. Also, other trends that we did see was we saw a big shift in alcohol from where I don't know what the percent was, but it was pretty high. Was part of it was on premise and part of it was retail. We've seen a lot more move on to retail. So we've seen the big shift because in the U.S. right now, like I think in my state, which is New Jersey, like Michelle's, I think like you can take drinks to go, alcohol to go, but you couldn't do that before. So there's a lot of like all these rules, but people are drinking and eating more at home. So,
And do you think that this
is temporary though? That whole drinks to go is just a temporary measure.
It
that
is.
will not stay.
Yeah. And this trend, this Buy American trend, do you think is something that we should worry about?
So Walmart for years has been doing a Made in America. So they've been doing it for years. I think it's part of, for them, it's part, I'm not saying that this is the reason, but they had a reputation of doing everything through China. And I think they were really showing like we're finding great American products. I don't know that it's. I think sourcing is a sensitive issue because we have had some conversations regarding sourcing. Retailers don't want to be as reliant on one country anymore as they have been. So I think we've talked to them about, should we, how do we do a sourcing event? But there's a lot of complexity when it comes to straight sourcing, not just for food, but for other categories. But I think like some countries that want to do sourcing this is a good opportunity for them, from a manufacturing capability.
Yeah. Well, let's go into specifics. Some questions about, just one for you, Eric.
Sure.
What are your fees? Of your different programs? It's just, someone is asking that.
So sure, everything is definitely on our website. We're 100% transparent. There's nothing's hidden. We range probably from maybe we have programs that could cost you $1,000 up to, if you're a pharmaceutical company, $20,000. But I would say a lot of the food products.
Per year or per month?
I'm sorry.
Per year or per month?
Per program.
Per program. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those programs you can operate these programs for different periods of time, I guess.
So, so the way it works is a program. Let me see if I can I think it'll make it easier. I'm going to see if I can show something really quick because this may just make it. Let's see. I just want to share. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Oh, here.
It's starting to work. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Just to give us an idea. Okay.
Yeah. So each program has we have for almost every category. So if we were talking about, I'm in the beverage category, non-alcoholic. This is the program. You click on it. This is who's participating. So I tell you who the buyers are. So you can see it's 7-Eleven, it's Aldi. You can look through CVS and so forth. And then when you go, if you scroll down more, you have the ability to do, in this case, a 10-minute meeting or 20-minute meetings, and there's different prices. And then this includes all the meetings, all the setup. So you would have, let's just say 20, 25 meetings or so based on different ones, and everything's right here. But each program that you can look at has its own category, private label, or, here, since we're talking a little bit about, so we do one on dairy. So when we go to dairy, I go to participants, and then I can see who's coming to us for dairy, who's coming for deli, who's coming for bakery, and you can see. And then again, you go back to and you just scroll down, and we have a 5-minute meeting for 3,500 up to 8,000. Yeah. So it's all there for you.
Perfect. Yeah.
So it's by program, as we would say.
You don't have any success fee also.
Say that one more time.
Yeah. Do you have any success fee? Well, besides your pricing that you present there?
No. There's,
okay, that's all.
No.
Okay. All included. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We have a question for you, Michelle, here. Someone asked you, well, I think it's a different business, or a different line of business. Frozen seafood. Michelle, do you have interest in frozen seafoods?
I do nothing frozen. We do only refrigerated.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And
so,
just know, I told Maria, for some reason, technology's not with me today, and I have 10% battery. So if you have anything else for me, let me know, because otherwise it goes.
Okay. Not for now. There is someone that I think this one is more for João. We have this FDA registration for our craft gins. Are we ready to sell to ECRM, for instance, or we need special licenses due to alcohol issue? It's both to you, Eric and João.
I think, Eric, I don't know, it works with your platform. What I can say is that alcohol beverages are a completely different group of products. Actually, sale of alcohol products in the US, so we are talking about spirits and wines, etc. In the US is heavily regulated. You need to go through an importer or through a government agency, because some states, they control their own purchase of alcoholic beverages. It's the government that purchases, so depending on the states, but this is heavily regulated. And so it's not only a matter of registering your company and the FDA and you are ready to go. No, you need to work, you need to get licenses, or your importers need to have the licenses to bring your alcohol products in. But Eric, through your platform, I don't know if you work with wines and spirits, but go ahead.
Yeah, we do. So wine and spirits, obviously, of everything we do, it's probably the most complex because of we think we call it a 3-tier system. There is, you have to have an importer, because you can't ship samples. There's so many rules. So I would say you have to connect with an importer in the U.S. and that U.S. importer has to have like the legal rights to sell in the specific states, because as we were saying, like Pennsylvania, it's bought from the government, but like in New Jersey, it's not. So alcohol is one of the more it's good, but it's the most steps. So in a sense, you could come to ECRM to learn, to find out, but I don't know that you could sell. That would be, you'd run into like that. Well, I didn't go through all the rules, but there are, I would say from an alcohol standpoint, Portugal does a lot of wine into the U.S. So I would imagine that there's somebody from a wine company that you could probably piggyback with. That would be probably my recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? We'll almost, yeah. We have a question from Michelle, but Michelle is no longer here. Yeah. We have 2 questions for her, but I think she's not here. Well, I think that we ran out of questions for now. I think that everybody is available to be contacted by companies if they have any doubts, if they have questions. I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, if anybody needs anything from ECRM, my contact information's on the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. So thank you, Eric. Thank you, Michelle. She's not here any longer. And João, we'll keep in touch. And I will switch to Portuguese just to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Muito obrigado então pela vossa presença. Todas as questões, mais uma vez, todas as perguntas que tenham podem ser respondidas depois pela nossa delegação em Nova Iorque. Está aqui o João Mota Pinto, que está disponível, obviamente, para quaisquer contactos, e depois também pelos nossos convidados. Também tem, nas apresentações que vão ser partilhadas, tem os contactos deles. Resta-me agradecer a vossa presença e esperar que possam estar presentes noutros eventos da AICEP, que vamos continuar a organizar nas próximas semanas. Na próxima semana, aliás, vamos ter um evento que pode ser de interesse para alguns dos presentes hoje, que é um evento dedicado à certificação de produtos agroalimentares. Será no próximo dia 23. Aliás, confirmar, 23, exatamente, às 10 da manhã. Estejam atentos então ao nosso site, às nossas redes sociais e também aos vossos gestores de cliente. Muito obrigado. Até à próxima. Boa tarde.
Obrigado.